that everyone loved. Their only wish was to have a daughter. One day, their wish came true, and their daughter came into the world. They organized a feast to celebrate the event. All the kings and queens of other kingdoms, all the townspeople, and the 12 fairies of the country were invited. As part of the celebration, everyone presented their gift to the newborn princess. When it was the fairies' turn, each of them made a wish using their magical wands. There were exactly 12 fairies.
May life bring you everlasting happiness.
Let your beauty be spoken of all across the lands.
Let this princess be a very clever girl.
Let her always be generous to our people.
Suddenly, the entire hall started to shake. As everyone watched in awe, there was a high-pitched sound. The wicked fairy was the 13th fairy. They especially hadn't invited her to the party. Furious, the wicked fairy approached the crib and pushed aside the 12th good fairy that still hadn't made her wish.
So, I'm the only one that wasn't invited, I see. Well, even if I wasn't invited, I also have a wonderful gift for the princess. On her 16th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on a needle and die.
Staring at the wicked fairy, the king and queen begged the good fairy to do something. Please, do whatever it takes to break this curse, good fairy.
Unfortunately, my queen, I cannot remove the curse that the wicked fairy has cast, but I can at least lighten it. When the princess pricks her finger with the needle, she won't die. She will sleep for 100 years. She will only be awakened with the kiss of a prince. That's all I can do.
The king immediately prohibited the use of needles and had them removed from his kingdom. He ordered his guards to watch over the princess until she grew up. The good fairy's wishes had come true. The princess turned out to be a beautiful, well-mannered young girl. In the palace, she could only wander around the garden with the fairies. Her father always watched over her. On the day of her 16th birthday, the princess was locked up in a room to stop the curse from happening. Everyone was very anxious. If nothing happened until sunset, the curse would be lifted. The princess was bored and wanted to open the window to catch some fresh air. Outside, the weather was beautiful. As she opened the window, she saw a raven with a little box in its beak. The bird placed the box on the windowsill and flew away. It was such a beautifully decorated box that the princess couldn't resist her curiosity. She opened the box and saw a glowing diamond ring. She thought it was a birthday gift from the fairies, so she put it on her finger. But a little needle was hidden underneath the diamond. So, when the needle pricked her, the princess fell into her 100-year slumber. The bird that had brought the box to the princess was the raven of the wicked fairy. When they couldn't hear any sound from the princess's room for some time, the king became anxious and went to check on her.
My girl, you haven't said anything. Open the doors so I can see you. Be patient. There's only 2 hours left until sundown and the curse will be broken.
The king couldn't get a reply, so he unlocked the door and entered the room. To his surprise, he found his daughter lying on the floor.
My queen! Guards! Run! My princess has fallen asleep! It's a disaster! A disaster!
When they saw the ring on the princess's finger, the upset king and queen immediately realized what had happened. The wicked fairy had tricked the princess into pricking her own finger, fulfilling the curse.
Good fairy, do something, please. Either awake her or let us all sleep and awake with her. We can start our lives again when she wakes up in 100 years. How can we live without her?
To cast this spell, we have only till sunset. We have little time, but I'll do it. First, let's get the princess into a beautiful bed.
They immediately carried her to her room. They laid her in a bed covered with flowers in her most beautiful gown. The king and queen sat in their thrones. The servants waited where they stood. The birds, cats, and dogs. Everyone was ready. And the good fairy cast her most powerful spell yet.
Let everyone in the palace fall asleep along with the princess and awake with her.
With a wave of her hand, everyone in the palace fell asleep. The palace was to be known as the Palace of Sleeping Beauty from then on. As years passed, the palace was covered with thorns and vines. No one could enter anymore. Many years passed. One day, as the prince was wandering around with his soldiers, he noticed the palace covered in vines.
There it is! This must be Sleeping Beauty's castle, the one my mom always told me about when I was younger. Look, it is completely covered with vines.
He took out his sword at once and started cutting down the vines. He fought his way through and made it to the door of the castle. When he entered, he was speechless by what he saw. The king and queen in their thrones and the people of the palace all sleeping in some place. They were all lying still. He started wandering through all the rooms of the palace, trying to find the princess.
I'm going to find you, beautiful princess. I'll save you. I will lift the curse.
The prince was frantic, running around trying to find the princess's room. Finally, he came across a magnificent door in the tower. He opened it slowly and found the incredibly beautiful princess asleep on a bed of flowers.
My goodness, how beautiful she is. It's as if she fell asleep yesterday. Her flowers still smell wonderful.
The prince couldn't bear to see the princess sleeping like an angel, so he gave her a kiss on the cheek. At that moment, the princess woke up. When she saw the handsome prince standing before her, she asked,
What happened? Am I still dreaming?
No, my princess, you aren't dreaming any longer. The curse has been broken. Please, give me your hand. Let me help you get up from this bed.
The princess gave her hand to the prince and got up. When the curse was broken, everyone woke up from their sleep. The king, queen, servants, cats, dogs, and flowers in the garden all came to life again. There was nothing left of the vines and thorns. The king and queen ran to their daughter's room in excitement.
Good heavens, what a beautiful day! I'm so happy. My daughter and the whole palace have awoken from their sleep.
They hugged joyfully. The prince promptly kneeled before the king.
My king, I would like to marry your daughter. With your permission, may I ask for a hand in marriage?
My dear Prince, we are so very happy. I would be honored if you were my groom.
My dear princess, I've waited for this moment my whole life. Will you marry me?
Yes! You are the prince I have seen in my dreams.
They invited all the fairies and got married with a magnificent wedding. They lived happily ever after. And what happened to the wicked fairy? After she found out what was going to happen to her, she escaped to a faraway land. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived the Darling family. Their oldest child was Wendy, and their sons were John and Michael. One night, their parents went out for a stroll in town. The children, who were home alone, had a great time playing games together. When they got tired and sleepy, their sister started telling them the story about Peter Pan.
Once upon a time, in far, faraway secret lands, there lived a child called Peter Pan.
They all fell asleep. Later on, Wendy woke up to a sound coming from the window. And what did she see? There was a child and a flying fairy in front of her. They were sitting on the windowsill, laughing at her.
Good evening! My name is Peter Pan. I'm the hero of the story you told your brothers. Even though you missed a few details, it was still a wonderful story.
And my name is Tinkerbell, but you can also call me Rattle. You can use whichever one you prefer. As you can see, I'm a little fairy girl.
Wow! So you're real! I'm very pleased to meet you.
Of course we're real, but we live in the secret country.
We're very close friends with Peter Pan. We've known each other for a long time. I have an idea. Peter Pan, let's take the children and go back to our country. What do you say?
Oh, what an adventure it would be! I love adventures. But you can fly, and us? Well, we don't have wings, and we can't fly.
Don't worry about that. Once I sprinkle some fairy dust on you, you'll be able to fly just like us. Wendy, who wanted to go on this adventure, woke her brothers up right away. John and Michael, who saw Peter Pan before them, were incredibly surprised.
Yes, I was also shocked when I saw them, kids. But Peter Pan and Tinkerbell from the story are real, and they are inviting us to their secret country.
What? A secret country? Where is it hidden? How can we get there? We have to go.
Let's go, sis. Please, please.
Come on, let's go. Wendy accepted joyfully. The minute Tinkerbell sprinkled fairy dust on the kids, they started hovering in the air. Shocked, all together they started flying out the window.
Woohoo! Cool! Look, John, we're flying!
Come on, we have a long way to go. After a long journey, they arrived at the secret country. In this country lived wild animals, Indians, fairies, and lost children. But also very dangerous pirates. The head of the pirates was Captain Hook. Captain Hook was Peter Pan's greatest enemy. The reason for this animosity was because of something that happened in the past. One day, Captain Hook had captured the princess of the Indians.
Huh?
In order to save this princess, Peter Pan fought Captain Hook. He cut one of his hands with a sword, and his hand fell into the sea. A crocodile ate it along with his wristwatch. Now the crocodile swam around making a tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock sound. So the crocodile was called Tick-Tock. To replace his missing hand, they replaced it with a hook, and that's how he became known as Captain Hook. Peter Pan and the children went to Peter Pan's house without being seen by Captain Hook. The captain always spied on everyone in the secret country using his telescope, so they were careful and hid on the way. There were exactly 3 lost children in Peter Pan's home. They were also children that had been captured by Captain Hook and saved by Peter Pan. Right away they surrounded Wendy.
Welcome. So does this mean that we're going to eat delicious food every day?
Do I have to do all the cooking just because I'm a girl?
But we...
Never mind. You're lucky I like cooking. Of course I'll do it. And I'll also tell you stories at night before you go to sleep.
Hooray!
Yippee! The children hugged Wendy happily. Wendy acted like their mother. She cooked delicious food, baked cakes, and told them stories before bedtime. They became really good friends with Peter Pan. They walked together in the forest and got to know each other better. But Tinker Bell was not so happy about this new friendship. She thought that Peter Pan had forgotten her and that he was neglecting her, so she was starting to get sick of Wendy. Wendy must go back home. Peter Pan is my friend. I'm the one that found him in the Lost Forest and brought him to our secret country. Now he spends time with Wendy instead of me. I need to find a solution to this. However, Wendy had no idea about this. Her only thought was to help everyone in the secret country. One day, while Peter Pan and Wendy were chatting, sitting on a rock in the secret country, Captain Hook was spying on them with his telescope.
Right there, it's Peter Pan! Quick!
Everyone ran around the ship, firing, trying to shoot Peter Pan.
You idiots! Ah! Not me! You need to shoot Peter Pan!
Tinkerbell, take Wendy somewhere safe. I'm going to the pirate ship. This time it'll be your end, Mr. Hook.
Come on, Wendy, quick! Tinkerbell immediately made a plan and left Wendy on top of a cloud. She then went straight down next to the children. Hey kids, Peter Pan said there was a large bird on top of the clouds and that we should shoot it. At once, the children took their bows and shot their arrows towards the clouds. Meanwhile, Peter Pan was dealing with Captain Hook on the deck of the ship.
You want a hook on your other arm, Captain? If you have the courage, we should sword fight. I'm waiting for you on the beach. You'll come if you're not scared.
Peter Pan flew off to the beach and the ship approached the shore. Finally, these two enemies started to sword fight. A little while later, Captain Hook heard a familiar sound from behind him. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The minute he heard the sound, he turned around in panic and saw Tick-tock coming towards him. Throwing his sword into the air, he ran as fast as he could onto the ship.
Mummy! Mummy!
Ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha!
Peter Pan laughed loudly at Captain Hook. All of a sudden, he thought of Wendy. He went straight to Wendy to see how she was doing. And to his terrifying surprise, he found Wendy lying on the floor with an arrow in her chest. Peter Pan was very upset and also completely terrified. He thought that it was his fault of what had happened to Wendy.
Tinkerbell, kids, what's happened here?
Tinkerbell told us to shoot the bird in the clouds. She said that you had asked us to. So we shot at the clouds. But it wasn't the bird, it was Wendy.
All the kids were very sad and were crying.
Tinkerbell, you lied to us.
Peter Pan bent over and took the arrow out of her chest.
But there's no blood on this arrow.
The arrow had hit the button of Wendy's vest and hadn't pierced her chest. Peter Pan suddenly realized that she had only fainted from the shock of the impact and had fallen to the ground.
Wendy! Wendy! Come on, wake up!
Wendy, who had opened her eyes and stood up, made everyone happy. All of them hugged her with joy. They all returned home together. Tinkerbell was watching everything that was going on from the top of the fairy tree. She was so ashamed at what she had done. She went to Peter Pan's house and apologized from everyone.
I'm so sorry. I apologize from all of you, especially from you, Wendy. Will you be able to forgive me? I did it because I got jealous of your friendship. I'm so ashamed.
I owe you my life, Tinker. No one can ever take your place. We'll always be together, but what you have done is very wrong. Tonight, I want you to go to the fairy tree and think about what you've done.
Wendy forgave Tinkerbell. But since Peter Pan had told her to leave, Tinkerbell returned to the fairy tree.
Everyone is really tired today. Come on, kids, time to sleep. But first, time for a story.
Wendy told the children the story about 3 children who went to a secret country. She was telling them the story about themselves. Her brothers wanted to go back home. They really missed their mother and father. Wendy called out to the lost children.
We're going to go back home. Would you like to come with us too?
Come with you to your real home? Hooray!
I can't believe it. We're going to have a real home.
Peter, why don't you come with us too? You can live with us if you like.
No way! One day you're all going to grow up and get old. But me, I want to stay as a child forever.
The next day, Tinkerbell sprinkled fairy dust on everyone. Just as Wendy and the children started to fly, Captain Hook, who had been spying on them with his telescope, managed to capture them. Watching everything that was going on, Tinkerbell immediately went to Peter Pan and told him what had happened.
Peter Pan, hurry! Everyone's been captured. Save them!
What? Our friends have been captured? Enough of this, Captain. Your end has come. This time, I'm going to make you crock food.
At once, he flew onto the ship. Seeing Peter Pan, the children yelled joyfully.
It's Peter Pan! Hooray!
We're saved.
The captain immediately attacked Peter Pan with a sword. They both started sword fighting again. They fought for a long time, and suddenly Peter Pan heard tick-tock sound again. Not wanting to miss this opportunity, with all his strength, he struck the captain and pushed him into the sea. Seeing that Captain Hook had fallen into the sea, Tick-Tock quickly swam towards him. All of Hook's men who realized that they had lost also jumped into the sea.
Mummy! Mummy! You treacherous captain, run away! You now know what it means to capture my friends.
Now everyone in the secret country was free from the pirates. Now they also had a ship. Peter Pan immediately untied and freed the children. They celebrated this victory by touring around with the ship. Peter Pan was now captain.
Yes, it's time to go home now.
I will make sure you all get home safely.
Hooray!
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 Thank you so much for everything, Peter Pan. I will never forget you.
I won't forget you either, Wendy. Please understand me. I can't live there.
Peter Pan was actually very sad that he was going to part from Wendy and the children. It was good that Tinker Bell was always going to be with him.
Can we come visit you, Wendy?
Of course, whenever you want, Tinker.
They parted hugging one another. For the last time, they all flew home, and their family greeted them happily.
Wendy, John, Michael, we've missed you. Where have you been? Who are these 3 children?
They are the lost children, Mother. We've just come back from the secret country together.
Secret country? Wendy told her family everything that had happened to them. Her mother and father were shocked but incredibly happy to be reunited with their children again. As Wendy looked out of the window, Peter Pan and Tinker Bell were already long gone. They had disappeared. Wendy was still waving.
Peter Pan, until we meet with you again.
Once upon a time, in a small house there lived a young married couple. They were a very happy couple and were expecting a baby.
I know it's important for our baby to be healthy, but I do hope we have a daughter, my love.
Yes, I would love to have a daughter too. God willing, we'll have a daughter that will look like you.
The day of the birth was getting closer, and the young mother excitedly awaited the birth of her baby. Every day the mother would look out the window and over the high wall and admire her neighbour's garden filled with flowers and fruits. One day she noticed a yellow leaf plant that she had never seen before.
I wonder what the name of that plant is. It smells wonderful. I'm sure it tastes amazing too. I have to eat that plant. I will go straight to my neighbor and ask her.
Without wasting any time, the young mother left the house. But she had no idea that her next-door neighbor was a cruel witch. She knocked on the door, unaware of the danger that awaited her.
Ooh. Hello, neighbor. The yellow plant in your garden smells amazing. I'm pregnant and really craving for it. Is it an edible plant?
Of course. I can give you a little. It tastes incredible and it's really good for humans.
Then it'll be good for my baby too.
Of course, dear neighbour. Especially for expecting mothers. But remember, because it's so valuable, you may only take one.
Everything is going just as I planned. The young woman finished eating the piece she had taken as soon as she got home, but she wanted to eat more.
Bring me more. If I don't eat it, I can't have this baby.
Don't worry. I'll do everything I can to bring you more of that yellow plant.
As night fell and it got dark, the helpless husband climbed over the tall wall and took the plant that his wife wanted. This went on for some time. Every night, the young man secretly entered the garden, but he was uneasy about entering his neighbor's garden without permission. The bad witch had actually grown this plant to set up a trap to them. She knew that her neighbor was expecting a baby and that she would definitely crave for this with its smell. She had her eye on the baby for a long time. She was going to take the baby one way or another. One evening, as the man entered the garden again, the witch caught him red-handed. She now had the appearance of a witch. She was very ugly and was extremely scary looking. The poor man was frightened.
Please forgive me. My wife is pregnant and she can't stop eating this plant. I was forced to do this because you said she could only take one. I know this is wrong, but if she doesn't eat it, I'm afraid that my wife will die. I'm in a very tough situation.
I'll accept your apology only with one condition. You must give me the baby that is to be born. If not, I'll destroy all of you. The man had to accept this condition. When the time of the birth arrived, a beautiful baby girl was born. The witch went to the house immediately. Her name shall be Rapunzel. You shall raise her until she turns 1. In exactly 1 year, I will come and take her from you. The helpless couple accepted. When Rapunzel turned 1, the witch came and took the crying baby away from her mother and father and locked up the baby in a tower in the middle of the forest. She was going to raise the baby there. Many years passed. Rapunzel was now a beautiful young girl. As she had never cut her hair, it was several meters long. Her hair was golden blonde. She had deep green eyes. Whenever the witch went to the tower, she would call out to her. "My dear blonde-haired girl, I'm here. Let your hair down." Rapunzel would throw her long braid down, and the witch would climb up to the tower using her hair. Rapunzel thought that the witch was her mother. As she had never seen anyone else other than the witch until now, Rapunzel thought that she and her mother were the only ones in this world. She had a wonderful voice. She sang all day long until nightfall. Her voice echoed across the forest, and all the birds would fly to the window to listen to her. Birds were her only friends. One day, a prince was wandering around the forest. When he heard Rapunzel singing, he wondered where this marvelous sound was coming from. As he followed the direction of the sound, he approached the tower and realized the voice was coming from there.
I must meet the girl with this amazing voice. I wonder how I can go up this tower.
As he desperately walked round and round the tower, he suddenly saw a witch calling to the top of the tower. He hid behind a tree at once and watched. "My dear blonde-haired girl, I'm here. Let your hair down." Rapunzel let down her braided hair, and the witch climbed up to the tower.
I found how to go up the tower.
Having waited for the witch to leave, the prince now called out to the tower, impersonating the voice of the witch.
My girl, please let down your beautiful blonde hair again. I forgot something up there.
I'm letting it down right away, Mother.
With one swift move, she let down her hair again. The prince climbed up the tower using her hair and met Rapunzel. It was the first time in her life that the beautiful girl was seeing another person.
Ah! Who are you? Why are you here? Where is my mother?
There's no need to be afraid. I'm the prince of this country. Your wonderful voice brought me here. To come up here, I had to impersonate your mother's voice.
Rapunzel, who at first was very frightened, slowly realized that he wasn't a bad person. The prince was already charmed by her beauty. Days and months passed by. The prince was coming to the tower every day. When they spent time together, they didn't realize how fast the time passed. Then, he finally proposed to Rapunzel.
Rapunzel, I want to live with you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?
Of course I'll marry you.
I must now return to the palace.
I will try and find a solution to get you out of here at once.
Rapunzel was very excited that she would finally see the outside world once she married the prince. She was so bored of living alone in the tower for all those years. He held Rapunzel's hair and headed down the tower. Unfortunately, the witch was there too and saw the prince. She immediately understood what was going on. She raged with anger. As Rapunzel was pulling her hair back up again, the witch held onto it and climbed up. She was so annoyed and furious.
What's going on? Who's that just left? I've been hiding you up here to protect you from evil, but you've been talking to strangers and making friends with them.
He's the prince of this country. He asked for my hand in marriage, and I accepted. I'm so happy, Mother. I was waiting for you to come and tell you all about it.
What? What nonsense is this? I'll show you.
The witch was so angry that with a pair of scissors she cut Rapunzel's long hair short as can be. And with her magic, she then sent her to a very faraway country. When the prince arrived at the tower the next day, he had no idea that the witch was waiting for him in the tower.
Hi, Rapunzel. I'm here. Let down your hair, please.
The witch let down the long braid that she had cut from Rapunzel's hair. When the prince reached the window of the tower, the witch was there to meet him. He was terrified the moment he saw her.
What a surprise, huh? You thought you were going to be able to take my girl away who I've hidden for years?
As the witch let go of the braid, the terrified prince found himself on the floor. He fell on top of the bushes, but since he hit his head, he was blinded. Rapunzel was ever present in the prince's mind. So mounted on his horse, he searched for her everywhere. He swore that even if he had to go to the end of the world, he would find her. He searched and searched and searched for a very long time. Finally, one day, he heard a song. The voice was familiar to him.
This is Rapunzel's voice. I finally found her.
Galloping on his horse, he headed straight towards the sweet voice. He came to the door of the house Rapunzel was staying in.
Rapunzel, I'm here. Open the door.
I can't believe it. Is it really you?
As Rapunzel opened the door, she cried when she saw the prince. She cried so much that her tears fell on the prince's face as he was kneeling. Her tears were miraculous, joyful tears. Suddenly, the blind prince opened his eyes. They hugged each other joyfully and celebrated this miracle. The prince was finally able to propose officially. They returned to the palace and started preparing for the wedding. Upon their return, Rapunzel and the prince looked for her real parents so they could share their news. They were incredibly happy to be reunited with their daughter after all these years. They had a beautiful wedding and they all lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful queen and a handsome king. The queen was not only beautiful, but she was kind and generous. Her people loved her dearly. She always helped people and wanted her country to always be in abundance. The queen always longed to have a daughter. One day, as she sat embroidering by the window, she daydreamed of her future daughter. In a daze, she accidentally pricked her finger with her embroidery needle. The blood from her finger dripped onto the white fabric she was embroidering. At that very moment, a shooting star crossed the sky. The queen made a wish.
Dear God, please send me a daughter. Let her be so beautiful that everyone admires her. Let her have pink cheeks, black hair like mine, her lips as red as this drop of blood, her eyes as bright as diamonds, and her skin as white as this very cloth. She should always smell like the flowers in my garden. Let her teeth be as white as the pearls on my neck.
A short time after that, her wish came true, and she shared the good news with the king and announced that they were expecting a baby.
My queen, wish what you will from me. I'll get you the most wonderful gift.
My health is not as good as it used to be. What I ask of you is to protect our child from all evil. Please promise me that you'll protect her. There's nothing more I wish for.
When the time came, the queen gave birth to a very beautiful girl. Just as she had wished for, her daughter had black hair, red lips, bright eyes, skin as white as snow, and smelled like flowers. They named her Snow White because of the whiteness of her skin. Soon after, the queen's health deteriorated and she passed away. The young king was very sad. While he mourned his beloved wife, he also tried to raise Snow White as best he could. When Snow White turned 5, a big ball was organised at the palace. The king was celebrating his daughter's birthday and also choosing a new queen. At the ball, there was a beautiful woman who had magical powers. She used these powers to dance with the king and cast a spell on him and married the king and became the queen. Snow White's stepmother was a very beautiful woman, but she was also vain, cruel, and evil. From the day she arrived at the palace, she despised Snow White. She saw her as her rival. The queen also had a magic mirror. She always consulted the mirror about the future and would ask,
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
My dear queen, it's you. You're the most beautiful woman in the world.
And so, time passed by. Snow White became a very beautiful young girl. Those who saw her could not look away. As she strolled in the palace gardens, the wind that brushed her hair would spread her flowery scent. Birds and butterflies would always follow her around. And her voice was so heavenly that when she sang, birds in the gardens would go silent and listen to her. One day, the queen asked her mirror,
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
My queen, you are very beautiful, but the most beautiful girl is Snow White.
The jealous and cruel queen got so angry that she held the bottle in her hand at the magical mirror.
How is that possible? No one's more beautiful than me. Summon the princess at once.
Meanwhile, she had locked up the king in the palace dungeon and told everyone that he was away working for his people. She also summoned the palace hunter and gave him strict orders.
I want you to kill Snow White and bring her heart to me as proof.
Snow White, who had no idea of her fate, came to see the evil queen.
Dear Snow White, you haven't been out for days. You must be bored inside the castle. I'd like you to bring me some strawberries from the forest. This way you'll be able to get some fresh air. You'll have a good time, don't worry. I'll send you my trustworthy hunter with you.
As the princess picked strawberries with the hunter, they got deep into the forest. The poor hunter was very sad.
How can I harm someone with such a good heart and such beauty? There must be another way.
The hunter couldn't bring himself to kill her. They sat under a tree and he told her about the queen's evil plan.
My princess, please go far away. If the queen finds out what I've done, she will kill both of us.
He immediately hunted an animal and brought its heart to the queen.
Aha!
The princess spent the night under that tree. She was so scared. At dawn, she went on her journey. After a long walk, she reached a small house and went inside. She looked around in amazement.
What is this place? Everything is so small and there's 7 of everything. 7 small chairs, 7 pairs of forks and spoons.
Since she was so hungry, she made soup with the ingredients she found in the house. She ate and went upstairs. And then she fell asleep in one of the small beds. At night, the house owners returning from the mine were actually the 7 dwarves. Their names were Doc, Dopey, Happy, Grumpy, Sneezy, Bashful, and Sleepy.
Hey, what's this? It smells like delicious soup.
No! It's like someone entered the house.
Come, look, there's a girl sleeping here.
The commotion woke up Snow White. She was scared when she first saw them. She then told them everything that happened to her.
My name is Snow White. I don't mean any harm. I don't have a place to go. That's why I took shelter here. Please, let me stay.
Of course, Princess. We are not going to let you stay alone in a forest. Don't worry.
You are our first guest who makes such delicious soup.
Time passed by. Days and weeks. Snow White and the 7 dwarves were laughing, having fun together, and living a peaceful life. Meanwhile, the evil queen, not knowing that Snow White was still alive, asked the mirror again.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
My queen, you're beautiful, but Snow White, who lives with the 7 dwarves, is more beautiful.
Ah! How's this possible? The hunter must have lied to me. First, I will get rid of Snow White, and then I will teach the hunter a lesson.
She immediately worked on an evil plan. She poisoned an apple and disguised herself as an old woman to trick Snow White.
Hello? Anybody home? I'm so hungry and I ran out of food.
The 7 dwarves had warned Snow White to not open the door to anyone. But Snow White felt sorry for the old woman that came to her door, and so let her in without a doubt.
Please come in. Welcome. Thanks, my child. I got so tired and hungry in the forest. Do you have something to eat? Yes, of course. I have some soup.
After finishing her soup, the evil queen, disguised as the old woman, offered the poisoned apple to Snow White. The princess took a bite and fell on the floor, falling asleep. The old woman turned back into the evil queen and happily went back to her palace. When the 7 dwarfs who came back from the mine in the evening saw her laying on the floor, they thought that she had died and so were very sad.
We should make her eternal sleep comfortable. Let's make a nice bed for her.
A handsome prince who was walking through the forest heard the 7 dwarfs crying. He got curious and approached them.
Oh my, what's going on here?
He was very surprised when he looked to see who was laying in the crystal bed surrounded by flowers. She was the girl who had been in his dreams for days. The smell of her hair was still all over the forest.
Who is this beautiful girl?
Her name is Snow White. We haven't been able to wake her up.
They told the prince everything that had happened. The prince lifted the crystal cover to give a farewell kiss to the girl of his dreams. He kissed her on the cheek. At that moment, something unexpected happened. The spell broke and a miracle occurred. Snow White opened her eyes and got up in bed. The 7 dwarves and the prince were very happy.
You are the girl of my dreams, Snow White. This is the best day of my life. Will you marry me?
First, I need to find my father and tell him about everything that happened, and also get his blessing.
They went back to the palace and got the king out of the dungeon. The evil queen fled in fear. The prince and Snow White got married and lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in a faraway land, there lived a king. This king had 12 daughters. All his daughters were incredibly beautiful. The king did not allow them to leave the palace. They were only allowed to walk around the palace gardens. While the king and his daughters carried on with their lives, one morning as his daughters sat at the table for breakfast, he noticed that their shoes were worn out. Although the king was very confused by this, he ordered his servants to buy new shoes for all his 12 daughters. Ever since that day, every morning at breakfast, the king noticed that his daughters' shoes were worn and dirty. The king couldn't put his finger on what was going on. Despite their doors being locked at night, the mystery of the worn-out shoes continued. To solve this, the king came up with a very clever plan.
Soldiers, spread the news across the country. Whoever solves this problem will marry one of my daughters and become king when I die. These young men only have 3 days to find out why my daughter's shoes are worn out every morning.
However, if they can't figure it out, they will be thrown in the dungeon.
The soldiers spread the news across the entire country. Many young men were turning up at the palace gates to solve this mystery. Yet, all of them were falling asleep outside the daughter's room and were being thrown into the dungeon. There was a kind, handsome young man who lived in a village near the palace. He had always liked the king's youngest daughter. The young man had no family except for his grandmother. So they lived together. One day, his grandmother came up with an idea.
Why don't you try your chance at solving this mystery? You always said that you liked the king's youngest daughter.
Until now, hundreds have gone to the palace to try their chance. None of them have succeeded. It will be impossible for me too. Plus, we're very poor. The king will never give his daughter in marriage to me. You must be mad, Grandma.
Nonsense. You do what I say. You will succeed. I'm giving you a magical cloak that belonged to your father.
Oh.
When you wear this, you will become invisible. And one more thing, do not eat or drink anything from the palace. Good luck, my son.
Although the young man was incredibly amazed by the invisible cloak, he immediately set off to the palace to try his chance. The guards led him to the princess's rooms, just like the others who tried their chance before him. At night, the oldest daughter popped a sleeping pill into a glass of water, left the room, and handed the glass to the young man waiting by the door.
It's hot. You must be thirsty. Here, if you like, I can bring you another glass.
Thank you. Yes, I was incredibly thirsty.
The thirsty young man drank the water and slept all the way till morning. The next day, while waiting, another girl brought a glass of lemonade. Unable to resist, the young man drank this too. He went straight to the room assigned to him and snored the night away. When he woke in the morning, he said,
How stupid I am. How could I believe these girls? My grandma had warned me about not eating or drinking anything. Tonight is my last night. I must succeed.
He went in front of the door again. This time one of the girls wanted to trick him with juice. The young man pretended to drink the juice while the girl watched, but the minute she turned around and entered her room, he poured it into a plant pot. He pretended to sleep lying next to the plant and snoring.
Go and take a look. Has the boy outside fallen asleep?
One of the girls peeked through the door and checked the young man.
Can't you hear? He's snoring away. It's okay. We are free now.
At midnight, when the young man wore the cloak, he became invisible. He slowly entered the girls' room. The girls were wearing beautiful dresses. They had brushed their hair and were all made up. There was a large mirror in their room. They all stood in front of it. The oldest daughter touched the mirror and blew a kiss. The mirror immediately slid to the side and a door with stairs appeared, leading down to a chamber. The young man watched in shock as the girls, one by one, went down the stairs. Of course, he followed them right away. As he went down the stairs, he accidentally tripped on something, fell and held on tight to the skirt of one of the princesses in front of him.
Oh, what is that? Someone's pulling on my skirt.
There's no one here. You must be imagining things.
They went down hundreds of stairs.
Whoa.
Finally, they arrived in a forest. The leaves in the forest were gold, the branches were silver, and the top of the trees were filled with diamonds. As the young man watched in awe, he also took one of each item to keep. He wanted evidence upon his return. They walked and walked down a very long path through the forest. At the end of the road, a lake appeared before them. There were exactly 12 boats waiting for the princesses. While each one of them climbed on the boats, young oarsmen were helping them get in. Finally, the young man jumped into the last boat.
Gosh, this boat is a little heavier than usual today. It's like it's carrying 3 people. Have you gained weight, Princess?
What?
A palace decorated with magnificent lights appeared on the opposite shore of the lake. Music could be heard from everywhere. They all entered this palace and began to dance like crazy with their companions. All the glasses in the palace were made of crystal, and all cutlery made of silver. As the young man watched this fantastic event, He wanted to eat a piece of cake and drink some water. He wasn't noticed while he was eating a piece of cake from a golden plate, but was caught while drinking water from the crystal glass.
Oh wow, I can't believe it. Look there, the glass is levitating. It's like someone is drinking water.
Upon hearing these screams, the young man dropped the glass and it shattered into a million pieces.
You're imagining things. We are really tired of dancing. You must have bumped into the glass. Come on, it's almost morning. Let's go back to the palace.
But...
It was time for the girls to return to the palace. The oldest daughter gathered all her sisters. They returned to the palace the same way they came in, with the young man following them at all times. The young man was thrilled to have solved the mystery of the shoes. He immediately appeared before the king.
Your Majesty, I respectfully salute you, Your Highness. I have solved the mystery of why your daughter's shoes are worn out after just one day. Every day, your daughters go to a magical forest, head to a palace, and dance the night away. This is why their shoes are worn out.
The king was shocked at this news and didn't want to believe what he heard.
Today was your last day. How could I know that you're not lying to me in order not to get thrown in the dungeon?
Sir, I have plenty of evidence. A silver tree branch, a gold leaf, a fruit made of diamonds, and a crystal glass.
Oh. The king was surprised at what he saw, but was also pleased that the mystery was finally solved. He followed the young man down the path, went to all the places they had been, and saw with his own eyes that the young man was telling the truth.
Yes, you were right. Tell me, which of my daughters do you want to marry?
Your Majesty, if she also accepts, I would like to marry your youngest daughter. And of course, if you see fit.
The young man and the young princess lived happily ever after. The young man also had his grandmother brought to the palace, since he owed her everything. Even though the other girls weren't so pleased with what had happened, they promised that they would never go anywhere again without permission.
Kondo-san,